One of the big trending topics of today as the San Francisco 49ers get prepared for the Packers was Amy Trask, former Raiders executive, going onto her podcast and saying,
4 games, 8 quarterbacks, 7 terrific quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy.
Obviously, if you've been a 49er fan and you've been a part of this channel, you know that Brock Purdy's been taking shots all year, and just add another one to the list. And one of the things that I talked about in the previous video that I made about this topic was that I wish we got a little bit more insight from Amy Trask about why she feels that way outside the standard talking points of he's got a good coach and got good weapons, because there's a lot more to football than just that. So Amy Trask actually was invited on to 95.7 The Game to go on with Willard and Dibbs to discuss in more depth and provide some clarity about what her points were. Well, take a listen to her response to all the backlash that she's received about saying Brock Purdy is essentially the worst quarterback in the playoffs. Take a listen right here.
Here's the comment about the 8 quarterbacks coming up this weekend from What the Football.
4 games this week. That means we have 8 quarterbacks. Did that math all by myself. 4 games, 8 quarterbacks, 7 terrific quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Make no mistake about it. Everybody be calm, 49er fans. I'm not suggesting Brock's not a good quarterback. He is. I simply don't put him in the same category as the other quarterbacks. So I'll say it again. 8 quarterbacks, 7 terrific quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy.
What don't you like about it?
It's not that I don't like him. It's not that I dislike him. He does things very well. He is surrounded by a tremendous, tremendous supporting cast, both on offense and defense. He is a good quarterback. I don't put him in the category of the other 7.
There are a number of ways we could ask the very next question. Here's the one that I choose because it zeroes in on one particular thing. And there will be more questions, of course. But, Amy, do you think Baker Mayfield is better than Brock Purdy?
I think Baker Mayfield is doing what he's doing with far less talent around him than Brock has around him. Now, maybe I didn't explain that well, although I do think I was very clear that I think Brock is a very good quarterback and that I think he's surrounded by a tremendous, tremendous cast that the 49ers, John Lynch and the 49ers have put together. So when I say that I think Baker Mayfield is doing more, it's because I think he's doing more with far less.
I think it's the nature of your use of terrific with 7 terrific, and then Brock was thrown in. I think that's the trigger point for many. And I guess my follow-up question to what Mark asked is it a demerit to a quarterback who is excelling even though he has a great coach and great talent around him?
I think it's a fair point you make that terrific may have been an overstatement as to some. That's a fair criticism. Again, I do think Brock is good. I do think, Patrick Mahomes, terrific. Josh Allen, terrific. Lamar Jackson, terrific. Those 3 are super duper terrific. It may have been an overstatement about some of the others. But no, I don't think it's a demerit. I absolutely don't. But I do think that if you are building a team and you don't have the cast that the 49ers have so marvelously assembled, then having a quarterback who can do a lot with less is something to consider.
So can we go into history and challenge the point a little bit? Let me zero in on one example. A completely undrafted quarterback who walked into a situation with Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, but now is also in the Hall of Fame himself. Like, how would you compare your current feeling about Brock Purdy versus someone like Kurt Warner, who had some overlap with his path?
I'm not sure I understand why you're asking me to draw that comparison, and I'm not pushing back on it. I just think that this one flew over my head. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me to compare.
I can totally speak to that. It is the idea that Brock Purdy, you would not use the word terrific because he's got so much around him. Well, so did Kurt Warner. So did Peyton Manning. So do many other quarterbacks who we have had no hesitation calling terrific or great.
Okay, and I guess I'll ask you this. I called him good why do people care so much whether I call someone good or great or super duper good or super duper super califragilistic good? What are we arguing about the use of good versus terrific? I find that interesting, but your point's well taken. When I look at the 8 quarterbacks, oh, and I have to tell you one other funny thing. When I look at the 8 quarterbacks, I don't put Brock at the top of that 8. I probably do put him at the bottom of the 8. Does that mean I'm right? Does that mean everyone has to agree with me? Of course not. This is the fun of sports, but we're supposed to be able to disagree agreeably. And there's this great meme about these 2 guys that talk about, you know what we do? We disagree. We have hearty debates. And then you know what we're doing? We're done. We go out and we have a beer. Isn't that what sports is supposed to be?
And Amy, just to further that conversation, though, you asked, like, is the word good offensive? I don't know. No, the word good is not offensive at all. But it is the comparison with the other quarterbacks that are out there. Nobody's eyebrows even go up if you say, I like Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar better than this guy. But Purdy has a resume that goes past, and Baker Mayfield, what does he have to work with? I mean, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, like that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we can talk about injuries, and then, yes, I know Christian McCaffrey was injured, and we can have all these discussions. And here's the point, man, and the reason I jumped on with you, in addition to the fact that I love you both, is we can disagree. That's fine. If you want to tell me you think I'm wrong, and I don't just mean you, I mean people in general, if you think I'm wrong, fair enough. You think I'm wrong. But we don't need to disagree in such a nasty, nasty, horrible manner.
Now, I would have to say I do commend Willard and Dibbs for how they went through this interview. Obviously, Amy Trask is someone that they respect. Amy Trask is someone that I respect. I said that in the very first video that I made about her. But I don't feel she clarified anything. In fact, I feel like she just said the same thing. And I do appreciate what Willard was trying to get at. He's basically saying, so are you going to discredit what Kurt Warner did with his weapons around him? Or where does it stop? Where does it end? Because your main point are the weapons. And when she gets talking about Baker Mayfield, again, goes right over my head. Baker Mayfield has 2 number 1 wide receivers. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are number 1 wide receivers that play on the same team. And then you have Rachaad White, who's one of my favorite players in the league. He's a former draft crush of mine. So you can't discredit the talent that Rachaad White has. I know how talented Rachaad White is. I've been watching him since ASU. He is finished, I think, top 5 in the NFL from the running back position. He was phenomenal this year. Absolutely phenomenal as a pass catcher out of the backfield and as a runner. He's one of the most complete running backs in the NFL. It's crazy. It's crazy. So she didn't clarify anything. She kind of doubled down on the take. And again, at a certain point, it's like, all right, now, what? I wish there was more clarification. I mean, Amy Trask, it seems awesome. Honestly, I have no problems with her personally. But again, it's such an easy and, dare I say, lazy take to give about Brock. And that's, again, we keep coming back to the same things. You either don't watch Brock or you don't know ball. I think she knows ball. I don't think she watches Brock, because there's this notion in the NFL right now that you have to be a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen to be able to be a super duper quarterback, right? And again, the problem that 49er fans have with Amy's take is not that she said that, well, Brock's a good quarterback. It's the fact that she discredited Brock, calling him the worst quarterback in the playoffs, saying Baker Mayfield's better than him. Like Jordan Love, Jared Goff, these guys are all having great seasons. But Brock Purdy was an MVP frontrunner for a reason, not just because he had numbers, not just because he had yak. Not again, you can make the argument with both statistics and tape, and both would come out to tell you that Brock is a very, very good quarterback. He'll never be Patrick Mahomes. He'll never be Josh Allen. He will never be looked at as that prototypical quarterback. That is perfectly fair. He's not built that way. He's not physically imposing. That's why he was the last pick in the NFL draft. He just isn't that way. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL. But what Brock Purdy continues to show everyone is that you can be a great quarterback without being a physical specimen who puts the entire team on your shoulders because you can't operate an offense to perfection. And again, that is a knock on Brock, that he executes the offense so well that he doesn't need to play outside of structure a lot of the time because he knows exactly where the ball needs to go. He knows exactly how to read the defense, and he knows how to throw with anticipation. So he can throw ahead of pass rushes. He can throw ahead of coverages. He can do things where he doesn't have to rely on his pure physical ability to escape and then make the wow play downfield, which he can do. But he does it so well within structure that it only rarely happens outside of structure. And when he does, he makes phenomenal plays. So I wish Amy came on to give a little bit more explanation about it. I don't think she did. And again, I got no problems with Amy Trask. I think Amy's great, but I don't like her take, and I don't like what she had to say, and I don't think she clarified it. I mean, she can believe whatever she wants to believe. She's her own person. That's perfectly fine, right? Like we all have our own opinions on things, and I expect everyone to have their own opinions and hold on to those opinions. But at the end of the day, this is a battle that 49er fans have been facing all season. So we're used to this. We're used to defending Brock. We're used to these high level, no substance takes that we're used to it. So when we hear it, we're like, care to explain further? And when you don't care to explain further, that's when we call BS, and that's when we say, you either don't know ball or you don't watch Brock. There's only two options. So you tell me how you feel about what she had to say. I don't think she really cleared up a whole much of anything else. I do appreciate the way that the interview went and kind of how they tried to, they weren't trying to drag her, which I would not expect at all. She's respected within the industry. So I don't know. I just find it interesting. What did you guys think of like her reaction to it all? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.